I mean, assuming you had a difference of opinion would imply that you had an opinion at all.
True. And I do not.
Fair enough. That doesn't bode well for an episode of the show where we're kind of...
Well, okay. I have an opinion on the topic, obviously. It's what I'm here for. But I don't have an opinion in which order said topic gets presented.
Fair enough.
No, fairly kick ass.
Fairly. Yeah, you said it better.
Fairly. Yeah. Yeah.
Got the didn't one. Let's just do the music. Please. We're here to talk about music also. It's not just our music. It's never our music. In fact, it will be our music eventually. More on that project in some amount of weeks or months. But before we get to that, Zach, me, Dan, him, Jay, him. It's Fairly Kick-Ass Crew, and we are doing one of our world famous. That's not right.
Nope. Well,
yeah, I guess it's world famous in our worlds, in our mental worlds, where we're the only podcast that exists.
If one person from outside of the United States listens to it, then it isn't technically world famous.
And I think we have had listeners outside of the U.S. Welcome to the world famous One Song episode, y'all.
I have nothing to back this up, but I'm pretty sure we're top 100 in Finland.
I believe it. I 100% believe it. Well, we are not talking about Finland. We're not talking about the United States necessarily either. We are going straight to Middlesex, at least for the origin story of our One Song artist. We're not going to get too much into the history because that's not what this show is. And besides, if you don't know the history, you certainly know the discography. You certainly know the music that precedes itself. Talking 31 albums, talking tons of soundtracks, hit after hit after hit after hit. It is none other than the legendary Sir Elton John. And when I say 31, I mean 31. It was a lot of music to go through. And most of it good. Like even the later stuff, a discography that spanned from 1969 all the way to 2021, all fairly good to great to, well, we'll get into the upper echelons of what that means here momentarily. But Jay, let's start with you. How did you feel about the discography and just the process of filtering out the one best song in Elton John's discography overall?
It was a daunting task, for one thing. And I will say that I realized, even as somebody who has listened to the deep cuts and listened to a lot of the album work, there's a lot that I didn't know, particularly in the latter 20-ish years of him releasing music. I think there's like 6 whole albums that I just didn't listen to beyond maybe a song or two. More on that later. But I will say that overall, this task was very hard. I do not wish to repeat this activity, but it was, my playlist is a good one.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. It's just littered with hits.
Yeah.
And even like you said, the non-hits were also, for the most part, pretty fantastic as well.
Oh, yeah. So there's some stankers in there, though.
Very true. We'll be talking about at least a couple of them.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
We always say, like we always come up with the thing, like there's no true right answer for most of these. We can argue about it and make our point, which is what we're here to do. But there's no true right answer. There are wrong answers.
Yes.
And this is no exception to that. There's wrong answers.
Yeah, even in a 4, 5, 6 album span of a career, you're going to have some shitty songs. In a 31 album span, yeah, it's unavoidable.
You could probably chunk whole albums from this catalog that would be wrong answers.
Yeah, I can think of at least one of those as I'm looking through my list.
Okay, hang on. Let's try this. Let's see what we come up with there. All right.
Oh, hold on. Let me go back to my list.
Okay, the album you would cut out, and I think we're probably on the same page. And
I didn't write it down.
Oh, well, that doesn't work. That doesn't help it. Let's say it on 3. 1, 2, 3. Victim
Tumbleweed
of Love.
Connection.
Oh, shit.
Victim of Love. Tumbleweed Connection, really?
Yeah, wasn't my vibe. It was just like not. It was anyway. Yes, that would have been the one that I would cut.
All right.
I found 2 tracks for every single album, at least 2 tracks that I really vibed with. And in most cases, more than that. Tumbleweed Connection, only one. The rest of them were just very mid. They weren't bad. They were just mid.
Fair. I mean, there's some.
I'd be curious as to which one it is, because it actually, like, I didn't include it in my list, but the Tumbleweed Connection has one of my personal favorite songs.
I'm gonna guess and hope that it's Burn Down the Mission.
No, but that would have been one of the two I would have guessed that you would have gone with.
Yeah, that was a fire song. That was a fantastic song. Not in the short list, but certainly in the I say the long list. The long list is like 75 songs.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that was the big thing that's coming across is a combination of both of that is going like there's just I don't know if we've handled a discography this long for our one song segments, which I don't even know if we've said that yet. We were one song for Elton John. I don't know if you've picked that up yet or not. 5 minutes in.
Oh yeah, we never said that.
Yeah, that's a figure to get that out of the way. But I also ran into the same thing that Jay did, because I think the last record I listened to all the way through, and it's still the one I just couldn't get through everything, was the Captain and the Kid.
Yeah.
Which is like
that
15,
one even has.
it's just like 15 years old.
Yeah, but even that one had 2 songs on it that, I mean, as opposed to Victim of Love, has a couple of tunes on it that I just couldn't.
Yeah, no. Like you said, in a career that spans 50 something years, not everything is going to go perfect.
Right.
Yeah, I was just looking over our one songs that we've done in the past, and we did do the Rolling Stones. That was definitely a hefty catalog. Michael Jackson was probably up there. The Beatles, of course. So we've done some that were sizable. For sure. I don't think we've done a 31.
That's the thing, because the Stones stopped putting out records at a certain point.
Yeah, but I mean, hell, Elton might have an album coming out next year for all we know.
Yeah.
And we have to run this whole thing back. No, we are
Well,
one and done.
We'll be all right.
Well, and I was going to say, and honestly, like me saying that Victim of Love is the one that I would nix completely is basically on the back of having to hear Elton John try to do Johnny Be Good.
Yeah.
Skipped it deliberately.
Yeah, you
because
made
it's
the
a
right.
cover, because I wouldn't pick it anyway. But
Sure. Fair enough.
it sounds like I made the right choice.
You did. It's a 7-song album, and it's a long 35 minutes.
It's a long 35 minutes. And I think my defense of Captain and the Kid is simply that the stuff from like lyrically, the stuff from like Postcards from Richard Nixon, like that's a decently written song. It's sung very badly for someone with his chops, but it's not a terrible song.
Yeah. The problem that I ran into those last couple albums is kind of having that moment, and it may have just been where I was at the time of going, like, these aren't bad songs necessarily, like that. There's work put in there. They're certainly quality, but there's not a whole lot of stuff where I would say, yeah, this is going to stick in my head and be memorable.
Oh no, absolutely not.
Days from now,
absolutely not. I believe the threshold for that would have been 1994. Maybe 1997. No, yeah, 97.
I was at least surprised that Wonderful Crazy Night, I guess technically the penultimate album that came out in 2016, was better than I would have expected it to be for an Elton John album in 2016.
Yeah, fair enough.
The latest album is actually the earliest album. We'll get into that, how that all worked out in a little bit. But yeah, suffice it to say, like, it's the volume is ridiculous. The volume over time is ridiculous. I think an average of like an album per year up through the mid 90s, just sick output. Yeah. And we'll be talking about a lot of it. But first, we have to tell you what the batting order is going to be for today. We're all going to get 2 minutes apiece to make our case to what we think is the one song to rule them all, In the Darkness, et cetera, et cetera. And then once we have made our cases, we'll talk about some of the honorable mentions that we already started scratching the surface on. And we'll tell you, dear listeners, how you can kind of chime in with your thoughts. If one of us got it right, if none of us got it right, which is very likely, what you would have put in that spot instead. Jay, you're going to be kicking us off today, followed by moi. And then Dan bringing up the clean.
Right on.
That's the position, right?
The clean?
The clean, yeah. Yeah, the guy that comes in with the broom after, like, it sweeps all the bases, like, to make sure that they don't have, like, dirt. And there's so much dirt on the pitch, you know? just sand and soil,
Blood.
blood, lots of blood.
The blood. Sure, I'll be your Kenny Omega. Let's just go.
Hell yeah. Jay, I have a timer ready for you whenever you're ready, my friend.
I'm ready when you are. Let's start
All
it.
right.
3, 2, 1.
Go.
So as we pointed out, it's a bold claim to name any single song in Elton John's catalog as the best. He's a legend. Hard to deny any of his tunes. Well, hard to deny most of his tunes. But Tiny Dancer undeniably presents a compelling case. Its enduring appeal lies in a perfect storm of musical brilliance, evocative lyricism, and a quiet but profound cultural resonance that sets it apart. Musically, Tiny Dancer is elegant in its restraint and its gradual build. The iconic opening piano arpeggios, instantly recognizable, draw the listener in with their delicate beauty, hinting at expansive narrative to come. The subtle guitar work and understated bass provide a foundational warmth that allows the melody to breathe. The song's genius lies in the dynamic ebb and flow. It never rushes, allowing each instrument to contribute to a collective, almost orchestral swell. It's a patient construction, and it has a cinematic scope, perfectly mirroring the lyrical journey. That lyrical brilliance lies in Taupin's ability to craft specific imagery, like pirate smile, dancing in the sand, Jesus freaks. While rooted in that particular time and place, maintain a timeless sense of infatuation and the joy of intimacy. The lyrics are poetic without being obscure, and accessible but deeply personal, inviting listeners to project their own experiences onto the narrative. But the cultural impact of Tiny Dancer is perhaps the most significant attribute. Unlike some of Elton John's more instantly successful hits, Tiny Dancer didn't immediately dominate the charts, but it steadily grew in stature, becoming a beloved anthem. Its inclusion in films like Almost Famous cemented its status as a quintessential representation of a bygone era. It isn't the best Elton John song because of raw power or groundbreaking innovation, but rather because of its exquisite balance. It whispers rather than shouts, drawing you into its world.
And time. Well done.
I cut a lot out. As I
could tell you're kind of tap dancing there towards the end.
I was.
All fantastic points. It is a song that is just rife with imagery, rife with just really well layered metaphor throughout.
I thought so. And it's cute that Taupin wrote it about his wife.
Yes.
Well, girlfriend at the time, soon to be wife.
We haven't talked about him yet, Bernie Taupin, just basically the songwriter component to a lot of Elton John's discography. And it's really hard to really decouple the two of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, very hard.
Oh, yeah. In fact, you could really tell as you're listening through, you can tell the albums where they tried to go off on their own, and yeah, it doesn't work as well. They're a team, period.
I'm waiting for the pushback.
Nah.
I don't have any, unfortunately.
It wasn't my choice as a spoiler, but it was certainly a choice. And I think that's one of those right answers, plural, to the question.
Right.
It despite, as you mentioned, having, a styled simplicity to it, still manages to work its way into the realm of epicness, a ballad with width and depth, and it's a theme we'll talk quite a bit about, I have a feeling.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah, zero argument.
Cool. Okay. All right, Zach, do we get to argue about yours?
I think you do. Actually, I have a hunch, and I'm okay. I got my heels dug in.
Let's go. Well, I got your timer, so you let me know when you're ready.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go. So, as Jay mentioned a couple minutes ago, this was a daunting task, a very arduous task. We're talking hundreds of tracks in just the base catalog, on top of the soundtracks, on top of other collaborations, just everything. Even just looking at the studio albums, I was able to pare down that first list to 76, and then that list to a 4-track short list, and then that list to a 2-track shorter list, finally leading me to the one song. Which from Elton's second studio album, which was self-titled as Elton John, is Border Song. What pushed Border Song over the top for me was everything that Sir Elton would become known for over the years. His deft, emotive piano work, check. his signature crooning vocal delivery, perfectly befitting of what is essentially a gospel song, Double Check, and his songwriting. Wait a second, Zach, you were just talking about how Bernie Taupin was the songwriter, and he is for the vast majority of this discography. However, Elton John took what was Border Song, the first two verses of it, said, this isn't long enough, this needs something more, and put in the third verse that essentially not only drew the entire thing together, but also morphed it from a song of despair to a song of hope. To be able to make such a marked change in a song in so relatively few words is nothing short of remarkable, on top of all the other very Elton-y things going on. On top of that, you have solid backing vocals, including American soul singer Madeleine Bell and English songwriter extraordinaire Tony Hazard, along with a heavenly choir to help lift this track into the firmament. It is a song that is equal parts beautiful and meaningful, and more than that, it is entirely, unequivocally, and quintessentially Elton. Thank you all for listening, and I forfeit the rest of my time.
Those 3 seconds will be added back into the bank and donated at the end of the semester.
So kind, so generous.
Yeah. I don't have an argument, but it's not even on my short list.
Oh, wow.
I understand there's so many songs.
Well, I mean, there's so many. I agree. It is on my short list because of that. And honestly, at the same spot that turns on it in that third verse, that absolutely flips the tone. It swings the full 360, if you will. And brings it back around to like you said, from something dour to something full of redemption.
Yeah, I think, and I had read this in a couple of places. I couldn't really verify it, so I didn't want to add it. But I think that the rumor is that it was initially about Bernie Taupin's kind of alienation from the London music scene. So from that to like a socially conscious song of hope and, like you said, redemption is like, how did you do that in a verse in like four bars?
Like 2 lines. Yeah. It wasn't even.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
2 lines and some added orchestrations.
Yeah. Yeah. We're like, I have 2 songs from that record on my short list, and that's not one of them.
Yeah, that's the deal with this. There are going to be great songs that did not make our honorable mentions. And that's not that we're shunning them. It's just there are so many. There's just only so much space.
You know what annoys me when I'm looking at this is that, so I have, well, I'll go, but I have 3 songs that I wanted to do, and I thought I would start to write, and then went, I don't know, let me go back to the short list. Those 3 probably we would have had some fisticuffs. I don't know that we will necessarily for mine in the same spirit.
Well, whenever you are ready, my friend, I have a timer to share that with us.
All right, let me go in 3 and a 2 and a 1. Let us go backwards in time to a place where the singer-songwriters wrote novels in sheet music, turned the mundane into the moving, the everyday into the everyone wants to hear their work. It's a stretch, leave me alone. Bernie Taupin wrote a bunch of these songs in the 70s, and many of them are among the most beloved in Elton's catalog. Daniel, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, Rocket Man, Tiny Dancer, and the track that belongs on top of them all, the pinnacle of musical achievement and Elton John's one song, the lead single from 1971's Madman Across the Water, Leave On. Not Leave On Helm. Taupin crushed that one in like 2013. Although the band was an influence on both of them, and Elton is enough of a fan of the man that he named his one of his son's middle names is in fact Leave On. So I can understand how people connect the dots. But the song itself is a very simple tale. The story of a man who is bored by his lot in life and who hasn't had a moment of that. But Leave On weaves through the emotions of wanting to get out of a situation and just start over somewhere else into a verbal tapestry, a war veteran who feels trapped by the familiar traditions of his time, and his son who wants to take off for Venus, which, by the way, spoiler alert, really bad idea, but wants to take off just to get himself to not be stuck in the same morass as his father. But the golden cap on the whole venture are the strings and orchestral arrangements written by Paul Buckmaster, amping a track up that would be good on its own. You just John and a piano. This is a great song. Add in that and it's taken to an epic level with wide string runs and instrumental layers. It's a track that shows off the best of everything that the artist and his team brought to the table. An offbeat but well-deserved choice as Elton John's one song.
Right at the bell. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Did you have to cut out a bunch of stuff too?
Not a word.
Ah,
God damn. Professional, folks. Absolute professional.
By now, I really hope I can write the time. It's only been like 23 years.
Yeah, I haven't hit that yet. I had to cut out like a paragraph. Anyhow, that is also on my short list. One of my favorite lyrics in that whole catalog that you were just talking about, one of my favorite lyrics is that belted out, Jesus wants to go to Venus. It kind of comes out of nowhere. It's so much fun to just belt out loud. Makes sense in context. Out of context, it's so much more fun.
That's a whole nother part of that. I didn't really figure out how I wanted to include it, but it's also just the idea of using the name Jesus in a song, because you know it's going to get to prick people's ears up, but then also sort of taking off with the steam, immediately going, calls his kid Jesus because he likes the name. Done. Period. Out the door.
No further discussion needed.
No further discussion. No attempt at any deflection of blasphemy. Just like, he likes the name. Move on.
Dan had mentioned that this song was not specifically about Levon Helm, which thank goodness for that, because Levon Helm, not a fan of Levon.
No, right? It's like, not really.
And instead, being quoted as saying, quote, Englishmen shouldn't fuck with Americanisms. I don't know what that means, but I like it.
I think the other thing about that song that draws me to it is the world builder fiction sort of, that whole album actually, with that whole world builder fiction element in it, where like they've created this character, this Alvin Tostig, specifically for that song, and then you can imagine him as the title character in Madman Across the Water as well, like just trying to avoid the in-laws.
Right. Because who among us hasn't?
Right.
I will go on record and saying I've been very lucky with having kick-ass in-laws, but I know that is that is more the exception, I'm sure, than the rule.
Yeah.
God, what do we do now? I mean,
we
all nailed it.
We did. We can talk about like the other things that may have been on our lists, though, the things that battled for that front position. Because I will tell you that Tiny Dancer wasn't the only thing that I had at the top of that list.
Oh, do tell.
So we already mentioned Levon's up there. That's up there at the top as well. I also had Your Song from his 1970 self-titled record, not Border Song. I had Your Song. Then Rocket Man and Benny and the Jets. I'm a big fan of Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. The most recent song that I think in his catalog strikes me really hard is I'm Still Standing. I love that tune from 1983's Too Low for Zero. Not one of my favorite records aside from the two songs on it that are stellar, which is I'm Still Standing, and I guess that's why they call it the blues. Those songs are brilliant. The rest of the album I can do without. But I will say that the one I had the hardest time dismissing is from 1972's Honky Chateau, and that's Mona Lisa's and Mad Hatters. For my money, it's the prettiest song he ever wrote. It's a gut punch, and I love every second of it. It shows off his guitar work, and lyrically, it's probably the densest thing in his catalog for me.
Very nice. Yeah, I guess that is kind of like the meat and potatoes of that catalog, even though there's still a shit ton of albums even after like the early 90s. Like, I don't think we really had a ton outside of like that, 70s and 80s sweet spot.
No, I commented that the most recent thing that I think could be really thrown on this list would be from 1997's The Big Picture, and that would be Something About the Way You Look Tonight. It's not one of my favorite songs, but it's a brilliant song. It's played at every wedding now, so like, it's a good song
for sure.
You could make a case for either Written in the Stars or This Train Don't Stop Here There Anymore, but that only takes us out to like 2002.
Right.
Although I imagine we all completely passed over the true classic, what will stand up as the song of generations to come, 2021 sausage rolls for everyone.
I don't hate the concept. I mean, to be fair, I do love a sausage roll.
Okay. So before I talk about what was immediately my worst song in his catalog, because I do want to mention that too. I have a worst of, but I want to hear what you guys almost put on your list.
Let me dip a toe in with some of the items that were barely off of that. I know, Dan, you had mentioned Daniel. Great song.
Mm-hmm.
That was very much on my short list. Again, it's 75 songs, so we're picking and choosing here a little bit.
I love that one because that one actually went the opposite of yours of Border Song, where they added a verse and it tied the whole thing together. Because Daniel, they deleted the last verse, and people have been asking questions about it since.
Leave them in the dark. I love it. A little suspense. I do like an album 1 track 1 offering, and the very first track off of the first album, Empty Sky, also titled Empty Sky. Great track. But
it's 8.5 minutes long.
Yeah, that part not so great. Let's shorten that up just a tinge, and it's much better.
I love that song because it gives Steppenwolf vibes.
Oh yeah,
anyway,
I could absolutely hear that. I could absolutely hear that. From 1976's Blue Moves, because we haven't mentioned that record yet. Cage the Songbird, country tinge tribute to legendary French singer Edith Piaf. Very cool jam. From 1989, Sleeping with the Past, of course, Sacrifice, which had a second life as a sort of club banger because life is weird. I do like the club banger version, by the way, but the original is far better. Can You Feel the Love Tonight? You can't dispute it. It's from a animated movie, whatever. It's a beautiful song in a vacuum. It doesn't need a movie to stand up.
It's on my long list.
And from, just because I wanted to mention it because we had briefly touched on it, Regimental Sgt. Zippo, released in 2021, was initially going to be Elton John's very first album before it got shelved in lieu of Empty Sky. Basically sat in a vault for all these years, was finally released and was good. It wasn't great, but specifically drawing to the track Nina, that was a very good song on that album.
All right. Dan, how about you?
Okay, so I know I had 3 that I started writing and moved on from. So let me run through the list, and it's very familiar to a lot of the stuff that the ones that I didn't start writing. Let's put it that way. The stuff that still hit that top tier. Your song, we talked about that. Tiny Dancer, obviously. Rocket Man, Border Song. 2 we haven't yet, an early song, Take Me to the Pilot.
Yep. That's the other one from that record that I had on my list.
There you go. I feel like we've dodged this, and I understand why, but the original version of Candle in the Wind.
I prefer the original. I might be weird, but
yeah, I think so.
Me too.
If you want to amp it up, go with the one from 89 with the Sydney Orchestra. That whole record. I guess that's why they call it the blues.
Yeah.
I do also have Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me. I don't know. I think it's still the solo. I don't think I need the George Michael version, and I'm going to duck right now in lieu of certain. And the newest one I have, which is from Sleeping with the Past, Club at the End of the Street.
Yeah, I had that on my longer short list too. That was a good song.
But the 3 songs that I started on and then went back and reconsidered starts with the one that I thought when I sat down, like, this is what I'm going to make, and I just need to verify this, and I was going to be I'm Still Standing.
Yeah.
The best, I mean, coming out of that, like, Victim of Love, the Fox, like, Valley, it was a nice, as they would call it, an I'm Back Bitch track, if you will.
Yeah.
Then I was like, I have an emotional center we haven't mentioned it. I think I could make a decent case for, and it would have been Empty Garden, which is a rough one. I mean, released just 15 months after John Lennon's murder.
Yeah.
There's a lot there, but figured that would be rough to do. And then I thought I would stay with the epic, and you claimed that 8 minutes was too long for a song right off the beginning of the album. But instead, how about right off the beginning of Goodbye Yellow Brick Road and of the 11 minutes of Funeral for a Friend, Love Lies Bleeding?
Yeah.
And then I realized I think I just really, really like all the live versions I've heard. But that alone won't help make as compelling a case. So I went back to the drawing board.
When we say arduous and daunting, we're not fucking around.
Not lying, man.
But I do think we landed on a couple of things here. One is that it seems that between the 3 of us, Madman Across the Water and Goodbye Yellow Brick Road are the two albums that land pretty significantly at the top of his catalog. I've got 4 songs from Goodbye Yellow Brick Road on my short list.
Yeah.
Same. Yeah.
And 3 from Madman Across the Water. So I feel like that's a pretty good ratio. Whereas the most I have from anything else is 2.
Well, I have 4 from Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. One of them is not a favorable choice, but the other 3 absolutely are.
Well, which one's not favorable? Because I have Benny and the Jets, Funeral for a Friend, and Love Lies Bleeding, Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting, and Goodbye Yellow Brick Road.
I had to point out Jamaica Jerk Off as one of these.
So that's the one that I'm going to point out is the worst song in his catalog. That song. No. Oh my God. Listen to it again. Remember when we shat on Stevie Wonder for his foray into, I don't even know what you'd call that. It was supposed to be reggae, but it wasn't. That's what this is. This is like the UB40s or UB40, but like somehow worse. Like it's COD reggae, but it's not. Like it's offensive.
Yes.
Which is the thing that pops up occasionally in Elton John's catalog. Lyrically, this one was offensive on every level.
Like, we're talking cod reggae, we're talking tilapia reggae, trout reggae, walleye, like the whole fucking... Oh, Jesus. It was rough.
I don't disagree, but I only have a counterpoint to worst of the catalog.
Okay, let's hear it.
Along the same lines, though. Island Girl.
That's the one I have as my number 2 worst song.
Yeah, yeah.
Elton, my guy. We have a chat. I mean, you have so many goods. We just could have not done the bads.
We could have just not done this one.
Yeah.
And he hasn't. He hasn't played it since like 1990.
He hasn't. And honestly, like, I feel like the reason I think Jamaica Jerk Off is such a worse track than Island Girl is because it's on such a great record.
Jerk off.
Oh, man. Can I also point out, though, that the other song that I wrote down from his self-titled record from 1970 is No Shoestrings on Louise. Just because, like, again, not as an actual honorable mention, but because the song was like, I still don't know if the song was intended to be like an homage or a parody of the Stones. I don't know which it was supposed to be, but it sounds more like Dr. John. And I love that.
I'm going to guess parody just because of just drawing on something that I was reading about for the Lion King soundtrack, how Elton was happy that it did well, but more happy that, I think it was Can You Feel the Love Tonight, hit number 1 and kept the Stones off of that number 1 spot.
Oh, Voodoo Lounge.
Like gleeful. There's no love lost.
Yeah. But it was 1970. It was 24 years before that.
That's true. There's been no love lost for a while, I bet.
Look, man, some bad blood just doesn't go away with time. All right.
Oh, man. Fair enough.
Good shit, boys. Yeah. And a very small amount of bad shit, but mostly good shit.
Yeah.
Is it bad? I'm looking at the list too, and I like, I would bump Philadelphia Freedom up to the A line too.
Fucking A, yeah.
Yeah, I've got that on here too. My longer short list, as opposed to my shorter long list.
I know that's the I'm gonna close this because if not, we're gonna sit here all night.
Yeah, I will say Philadelphia Freedom and Empty Garden were 2 that I kept seeing pop up on like doing searches for like the best Elton John song. So I mean, your list was spot on with that. It was pretty much in lockstep, Dan and Jay, both of you.
And Philadelphia Freedom is on the playlist that I made for this. It just didn't make my final cut here.
Listeners, what is on your Elton John playlist? Any of the 3 options that we gave you today, are any of them the best? Are any of them the one song? Is it one of the honorable mentions? Is it a completely different song that we didn't even mention? Because we maybe mentioned a total of 25 to 30 songs, and there are still hundreds that we didn't even talk about. There are whole ass albums that we didn't even talk about. So there's still
good reason.
Well, it's very true. Very fair. There's a lot of meat on that bone. And we want to know what we might have missed, what we might have overlooked, and what you think is the one song in Elton John's illustrious and possibly growing someday discography. You can do that through Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Fairly KickAss on all of them. FairlyKickAss at gmail.com. FairlyKickAss.com for our lovely website. And if you want more of this thing right here, this podcast that you're listening to, get it wherever you're listening to this, or get it anywhere else you want to, because we're everywhere. We are world famous, as we put it earlier. Any podcast platform on earth, we are there. And if we're not there, let us know and we will get there. Spotify, always a great choice. YouTube Music, always a great choice, except for sometimes they post and then unpost episodes. I'm still trying to figure out why that happens. It's very weird and very upsetting. But Apple Music does not do that. So check them out too. Any parting words about Sir Elton before we adjourn, boys?
No, I really feel like I want to say something profound here about, the legend, but I don't have anything to say.
Actually, no, I was looking to see about new music, and I think a close right now, I don't know if we talked about it when it came out in April, but his collab album with Brandi Carlile.
Oh, that's probably really good too.
Yeah, it's fine.
His candle will burn out one day, but his legend never will.